Welcome to the CU Scoop. I'm your host, Philip Dukes, aka Dukes D Scoop. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Dukes D Scoop. And please be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure you follow me. Let's do it. Hit the notifications. Become a member. Look in the description on this video. You'll see the link to become a member. Let's get this light a little bit out of here. Let's see. All right. It's a little better. Hold up. Yeah, we'll go with that. I like that light right there. All right, guys. Today we're going to talk about the case for Julian Lewis to start the season as QB1. I'm going to present cases for Lewis and Caden Salter, but today we're going to start with Juju. When you think about how high of a profile get this was for the Buffaloes, for Coach Prime and the Buffaloes, there was always an air of, is this really going to happen? I tracked this recruitment extremely closely from the time where, the official visits were set with Auburn, Indiana, USC, where he committed to previously, and Colorado. And there was always this sense that it could happen. It could happen. First of all, Julian Lewis is probably one of the most ballyhooed recruits in the history of Georgia. Um, when you think about what he represents as far as Coach Prime being able to recruit at a high level. This is the first time we saw him go after a quarterback. The one time he went after a quarterback, I mean, literally like really going after one and saying, all right, I'm going to get this guy. He went and got him. So I think that once you get into why did someone, there are so many people that think it's like, all right, Caden Salter's the guy this year. Julian Lewis won't be. And I just don't believe that to be true. I think that if Caden Salton plays better than Juju, then he'll get the job. But I don't want anyone to think that Julian Lewis isn't capable. I think this job is going to go to the best man. But I think that you cannot just count Julian Lewis out because of his age or because he's a freshman or because he classified early. He can do it. Now, as I said, this will be a two-part series. I'm going to do the same thing for Caden Salter, but I think we just kind of got to remember who Julian Lewis is. As some of the ranking sites on 3 and 24/7 bump Julian down, I think sometimes people look at those rankings and they'll say, well, he can't do it because they didn't say that he was the best quarterback in the country anymore. He was always ranked highly. And it wasn't just because of his size, it was about the intangibles. Now, as other guys developed and you saw people, stretch out, you saw guys go from 6'2" to 6'4". That was probably the main knock on Julian was his height and why they felt like some other quarterbacks may have been more college ready or have more pro potential. But I don't see it. I think nothing. His arc is the same. And ESPN left him at number 1. Also, Rivals left him as a 5-star. So just because you saw some of those rankings change, don't think that the player changed. Nothing changed about Juju. Same guy. Let's dig into his stats, man. We're talking about a kid who, as a 14-year-old, played in the highest classification of Georgia football and took that team, who was previously not on that level by far, and took that team to the state championship game where he set the record for passing yards in the state championship game and did it against Mill Creek, who was loaded. I mean, you talk about Jamal Anderson, Caleb Downs, who is probably the best defensive player in the country, pound for pound. This is who he was competing against as a 14-year-old. The chess match was between him and Caleb for a lot of those plays. So when you think about someone having moxie, someone having the intangible, someone who has never been afraid of the big moments, someone who was raised for this moment, Julian Lewis will be prepared. But let's get to the stats. All right. These are coming from Colorado site, but we'll just run down them right quick. Top 10 quarterback in the class 2025, 5-star by ESPN and Rivals, as we talked about. We can get out of the ranking stuff. Let's go down to the numbers. Started to play every game for Joey King, who also had Trevor Lawrence when he was at Cartersville. Went 39-4 in 3 seasons. Played a ton of football. 736 completions on 1,065 attempts. 11,000 yards, which was 7th all time in Georgia in 3 years. 11,000 yards, and the record is like 13,900. Actually, Aaron Follow from Georgia Tech has the record. The difference is, and no shade to Follow at all, man. I think he's a phenomenal quarterback. But Julian did this in 3 years in the highest classification in the state. It's a difference. When you look at all of those guys, the only one in the top 7 that played on that type of classification, I believe, is Harrison Bailey, who did it at Marietta. But outside of that, nobody in that top 7 played the competition that Julian Lewis did. For him to be able to do that, 48 touchdowns, multiple seasons, 2024 Gatorade Player of the Year. Let's go look at his freshman year. Okay, boom, freshman year. 66% of his passes completed. 4,000 yards as a freshman. 4,000 yards as a freshman. Now, as a senior, if he has another season like that, which is entirely possible, he 1,000%. If he goes back to school, he breaks that record, right? He's the all-time leading passer in Georgia and did it in the highest classification. 4,118 yards, 48 touchdowns again, 531 yards against Mill Creek. Okay, National Freshman of the Year. This is as a freshman. The reason I want to focus on that freshman season is because he did this at 14 years old. The numbers don't tell everything, but to be able to go command a locker room and take them against all of the top teams in the state, you go to the state championship as a freshman, 14 years old when he started the season. I just don't think that you could quantify how important that is when you look at indicators for future success. Someone who's been able to do it and single A, no, double A, no. Man, this man did this in 6, 7, 8, dog. At the time, it was 7A football, 7A, largest classification. Big dogs are the big dogs. Incredible. And so I think that what we have to remember about Julian is he's always performed on the largest stages, even when the competition has changed. Let's go to his junior. Let's go to his sophomore year. Max Preps sophomore of the year, finalist for National Player of the Year, 13 games. Had 4 out of 13 games. He had 4 touchdowns in 6 of those games. 7 touchdown passes against Harrison. 66% of his passes again, 186 to 280. Let's go 3,000 yards, right around 3,100 yards, 48 touchdowns, 2 picks. 48 tuds, 2 picks. 48 to 2. That's as a sophomore. All right, so this is his final season. We're not going to call it his junior season because it was really like his senior season after he reclassed. 3,800 yards, 75% completion rate, 48 touchdowns again. And he also had 2 rushing touchdowns. 50 touchdowns for Julian Lewis. And a point I want, so we got into the numbers. Julian Lewis, who's trained with esteemed quarterback trainer, excuse me, not having my let my head get out of the screen, but esteemed quarterback trainer Ron Veal, who's been with Ju a long time. He's trained with the best. We've seen him at various events around pros, watching the ball fly out of his hand from the time he was a baby almost. Remembering how you heard about this guy. Everywhere he's been the guy. 7-on-7, little league, don't matter. He's always had a commanding presence. And Julian never wilted under that pressure. You see him play a little bit. And I'm glad he gets to show a little bit more of his personality now. But when you talk about someone who has been trained specifically to handle his business in a certain way. He's like an assassin. Don't say a whole lot. But man, and you might not hear him bark, but people follow his lead because of the example that he sets with his work ethic. If he needs to get on you, he will. But Jew literally has the work ethic of like you would think he had 10 kids. Like, I gotta make it. Like, this is an uncanny ability of his, which is to treat himself as if he doesn't do these things, he loses all of his talent. And that's how hard and that's how seriously he takes his business. He's been doing it for years. So when we talk about can he do it on this level, why wouldn't he be able to? I think now we were talking about senior year, um, and a lot of people were saying they saw the championship game against Grayson, and you saw Tyler Atkinson have a hell of a game. Shout out to TA and shout out to his pops Vic, man. Both friends of the program. But what people don't realize is Ju played that game with a broken hand. I can confirm that. So let's rewind. And I'm not here to make excuses. I'm not here to do anything, but I want people just to take that game into consideration. For the people who saw that state championship game, understand Ju was playing with a broken hand. When he got to Colorado, he wasn't able to throw. They kept it under wraps because they didn't want that to be the prevailing story coming out of that game. But Ju had a fractured hand. He fractured a bone in his hand, and it was on his throwing hand. So when we talk about toughness, when we talk about being a soldier, when we're talking about being a warrior, he hurt that game. He hurt that hand previously. I think it was against Hillgrove, if I'm not mistaken. And he came out of that. He came out of the game, and he forced his way back into the game. Throws a bubble. The bubble sails on him, and he finally leaves the game because he just couldn't do it. And went to multiple doctors to get cleared to play. Anybody else, I'm not gonna say anybody else. What I'm gonna say is the average person with what he had on the line would have shut it down. He knew where he's going to school. He's already the upper echelon of high school players in the history of the state. He didn't shut it down. He knew that he had the best opportunity to lead his team to victory. So in that game, it wasn't his best performance, right? But the man was playing with a broken hand on his throwing hand. Came out of the cast early to play. The doctors were telling him, Ju, you should probably shut this down and get ready for college. He fought and found a way to say, hey, you know what, doc? Is there any way I can play? Even if it delays me a little bit when I get to school. He said, well, there's a way to play. We can come out this cast and start, try to promote some healing now. And, we can do some things to get you to play. 17 years old. I'll take any chance I have to go out with my dogs. That was more important than any stat, more important than all of the touchdowns, more important than all of the yards, more important than the rankings. What that showed me about Ju was that the dog in him, that dog, we always talk about having that dog in you. That's what you want from your quarterback. They talk about Colorado's offensive line situation and, are you going to put a 17-year-old there? He's a dog. He's a warrior. Easily, he could have sat out. He did not. So when you talk about being in the biggest game of your life so far, on the biggest stage, the most eyeballs on you, you go out there injured and you don't say a word, take it like a champ. Good game, big dog. Y'all got me. Y'all got us. But, hey, I came to play. Everybody knew. They were like, he looks a little bit off. Yeah, he's going to be off. The man had a broken hand. So for that school of thought that saw that championship game, and I saw it on Facebook. I saw it on Twitter. I saw it in different places. I saw it where people were saying he ain't all that. See what Grayson did to him. If he's healthy, I don't know how the game shakes out because Grayson was a great team as well. But I'll say this, he would have played better than he did in that game. And the fact that he was able to go out and control and literally he took control of his own narrative. Because if he would have put out, they hid that. I got plenty of DMs and questions. What's going on with Ju? Is Ju okay? I saw Ju's hand. The word is Ju's hurt. Never put anything out because he didn't want to make it about him. When you go into a locker room full of guys with mustaches, 22, 23 years old, there has to be some grit about yourself as a freshman, as a 17-year-old. There has to be something special about you to make people believe in you, and it doesn't just reside on the football field. If he's a skill position, a receiver, running back, it's a little bit different. But as a quarterback, people have to trust that you'll do what's best for the team. You have to lead by example. Julian Lewis has already proven that. We talk about the new philosophy, a different philosophy at Colorado as they move on from the potential number one pick of Shedeur Sanders. You're going to see Colorado take a more run-based approach. They're going to put Julian in situations where he can be successful based on having the complement of a stronger run game. Ju and play action, they're going to be things that Ju is going to be able to do, one, as the talent around him rises, right? There's going to be things that he's going to be able to do as he's able to, the offense, Juju's processor is different. If playing with older guys, which he's always done, he's done it a ton, he's going to be able to play in a way where the mental chess that goes along with being a quarterback, your wide receiver has to be on the same page. Everyone has to have that processor. So now he's on a level, no disrespect to anybody at Carrollton, but some of these, literally he's going from a high school team in Georgia to a Power 4 team that won 9 games last year. A wide receiver room that's hungry and ready to make a name for themselves. So with all of these factors going in, you want a guy who has the mental capacity to take on all of these things and not be blinded by the lights. That's what makes Ju special. He's never been blinded by the lights. Now, as his IQ starts to shine, as his work ethic starts to shine, these guys are going to be looking at, where is he putting that ball? The ball placement. What is he doing when he sees something wrong at the line? When he's assessing the defense, what checks is he making? This is where I think Juju is going to excel. It's here. The man is like a football computer. He's a robot. His relation, like the USC thing, that was because of him being able to talk ball with Lincoln Riley. When he was committed to USC, and I think he really did there was a time that he did want to go to USC. But it was because of you. It wasn't the Hollywood stuff. It wasn't, I had to dig down because on the surface level, you would think, oh, okay, well, Julian Lewis is so popular. Let's get him out to LA, Hollywood, it works. It was about ball. It was about breaking down schemes and schematics and, passive concepts. Why here? Why there? Getting into the mind of Lincoln Riley and allowing his mind to be sharpened by a guy who just had the Heisman winner and number one pick in the draft. Okay. It's that football acumen that's going to set Ju apart. Now he's able to kick around ideas with Coach Prime, one of the most astute film watchers in the history of the game. Someone his athleticism, his athleticism outshine his IQ because that's what we saw first. But people don't realize what a student of the game Coach Prime is. People don't realize how much film he watches. He watches film on himself when he's interviewing to make sure that he's better the next time. We're talking about a perfectionist. So when you have a perfectionist and a mad scientist like Julian Lewis, who has that Kobe-like ability to lock in certain times, and I know Kobe is and when I say Kobe, like, I don't want to put RP Kobe, first of all, and I don't want people to say, okay, we're just giving them too much praise. But there are certain people in life that want to win and do things that it takes to win at a different level. And Julian Lewis is one of those guys. So, in closing, I'll say this. He's got the numbers, he's done it. And that, like my man Uncle Neely says, man, the best indicator for future success is past performance. When has Ju not done it? Basically. So I'm not saying that Ju is going to be the guy. I'm not saying that I'm making a prediction. What I'm saying is if Ju ends up the guy, Colorado should be excited for what's to come. That's my time. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Please go. If you want to become a member, you want to support Dukes, become a member. The link is in the description. And as always, man, y'all be safe. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dukes the Scoop. All right, man, I'm out.